Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's Niall, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by Elliot Grigg and Owen. And we're here with some Fury and Usyk content for you ahead of the huge undisputed clash in Saudi Arabia. Undisputed heavyweight title, May 18th. We're not here to discuss the fight itself or keys to victory. You can check out other videos on the channel for that, a breakdown of the fight. We're here to discuss resumes and analyse resumes, particularly that of Oleksandr Usyk, and just kind of dissect what are his top three victories of his career. Of course, Usyk's resume is absolutely phenomenal between what he done at cruiserweight, going undisputed, and then unified heavyweight champion. Standout names, and I think massively the fact that it was all on the road, on the travels, the road warrior doing it in enemy territory is absolutely amazing. So yeah, there's other guys that are going to be doing Fury's top three victory video. So check that out on the channel as well. But lads, hope you're well. Let's jump straight into it. So what we're going to do is, I think we all kind of have the same top three, and I think a lot of people would have the same top three. So we're going to just kind of highlight those standout names, really discuss a bit about the fight and what we thought of them, and then at the end we'll rank them in what order. Because as I say, the names are pretty unanimous. It's the order that we're going to be kind of ranking here at the end of this one. So I'll go to Elliot for you first. Uh, who's your first name that you want to discuss for Oleksandr Usyk's top three best victories of his career?
Thank you very much, Noel. Thank you for that eloquent introduction. So, no, I chose this one. This is dating back. This is the earliest actually of the three fights we're going to discuss. This fight took place in January 2018. And the reason I'm nominating this, the reason we nominated this is, after this fight, Usyk himself, and it was the hardest fight that he's ever been in. And of course, I am talking about the fight with Marius Briedis, which was the second round of the World Boxing Super Series. Obviously, Gassiev fought Dorticus on the other sort of semi for that. But Usyk was fighting Briedis. Now, the reason that I want to put this in is because I think we don't like to overanalyze fights, look too much about stats. But the way this fight played out, obviously, was a very, very tough fight. I mean, Briedis was credited during and after the fight for landing a lot of counter punches in this fight. But Usyk himself landed 40% of his power punches. So he landed a lot of work in this. This was a tough fight on both men. Started off very, very close rounds. First four rounds especially were very, very, very close. Usyk himself was cut in the right eye. That was a clash of heads that cut him as well. So we don't see him bleed very often, but we saw him bleed in that fight. Round five, he started to sort of come on a bit more, come busier as he always is. He's busy, he's squatting and moving, etc., as he likes to do. But he was still caught by a lot of shots of Briedis in that fight as well. One judge had the fight 140, 114, scored it a draw. The other two gave it 115, 113 Usyk. That shows you really how tight this fight was. We're used to Usyk to sort of dominating on points, and we really sort of like making his opponent work and pulling away at the stretch. But it wasn't like that in this fight. Just to hit you with some other stats as well, really, on this one. Usyk landed 212 out of 848 punches, 25%. Briedis more accurate of the two men though, but with 33.7%, but he threw more or less punches, so he landed 195 of 579. So really not much in it. I suppose it's more of a case of what you like to see in a very, very close fight. But lads, I'll put Briedis in there. What do you make of that? You agree? You're in agreement with Briedis in there? And what do you think about it? What do you remember of that fight?
Owen, I'll throw it over to you for that. Your kind of thoughts on that first before I give mine. What do you think of Briedis? I think it's absolutely a fair show, an incredible fight, and yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's more than fair to put it in there. At that stage of Breedis' career, it was two unbeaten fighters and two of the top dogs going at it. I think for both of them, it was sort of the first major name on the winner's sort of resume. Obviously pre-fight, obviously it could have been a draw, but pre-fight I think it was seen as sort of whoever won that would probably go on to win the tournament. And look what we've seen Usyk do since. I think Briedis, he's only lost twice in his career to Usyk and Jaya Pataya. I mean, that sentence alone says how big a win it was for Usyk, because he lost to the best cruiserweight on the planet at the time, and he's lost again to the best cruiserweight on the planet currently. So it's a standout victory. It was probably Usyk's first standout victory for me. But that tournament run, like you say, Niall, to beat Briedis in Latvia, in his home country as well. I mean, I know it was only a majority decision, and it was a close fight. It was a close fight, but for the fact Usyk got the decision is testament to the performance itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great fight, real war, as you say, two undefeated operators, breeders, pure quality. And it's just crazy that, well, not crazy, I suppose, but when you look at it, it's the toughest fight Usyk had since, Usyk's not had a tougher fight in his professional career to date. So absolute testament to how good Maris Breedis is as well. And as you mentioned, now to go to Latvia and get that decision in such a close fight, it's real testament to the greatness of Oleksandr Usyk. But yeah, I think have it Breedis is definitely in there in the top three on merit. The top two best cruiserweights in the world at the time, to be honest, in my opinion. But yeah, good shout there from yourself, Elliot. So I'll throw it back over to Owen now for the second name of the top three. Who do you have here in this slot for Usyk's top three best wins?
I'm sticking to his Super Series run, and we're going with Murat Gassiev. Once again, not a shock that he went to Gassiev's backyard in Russia. Now that alone, forget that in Latvia, to go to Russia and to get a unanimous decision. I mean, the performance alone, the CompuBox stats were through the roof for a cruiserweight. Something ridiculous, well over 250 odd punches landed. Cruiserweight is absolutely scandalous. But to go to Russia to comfortably beat a man who was probably more feared in terms of knockout power than Bradis. He come into the fight on the back of knocking out Unical Dorticos, who, by the way, for that fight had stopped 21 of 22 opponents before Gassiev stopped him. So I think with all these factors, when you weigh them up, that coming off the back of his first major scalp of Bradis to step straight into Gassiev in the tournament, it was a case of, okay, he's got a big name on his record, but now's the chance for Usyk to be the big name. And oh my God, an unbelievable performance away from home again into the probably one of the worst Lions dens you could go into. That's another video itself, with controversy and decisions as always. But yeah, I just think to put himself in that position from the Bradis win and then to do that against Gassiev was incredible. So yeah, a feared man, more powerful than Usyk, but at the end of the day, Usyk's skill won, and my God, did it win.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you said there. Like, if you remember the kind of pre-fight for that one, that fight was seen as a major 50-50. Like, people could not split Usyk and Gassiev. Plenty of people thought Gassiev would knock him out. Just everything about it, how feared Gassiev was, as you mentioned, as a puncher, what he done to Dorticos, he absolutely iced him. It was one of the biggest knockouts we've seen. And of course, Usyk coming off that war with Breedis, that people thought if he's that easily tagged, he's not this kind of defensive genius that was people were making him out to be. A lot of people pick Gassiev there, and of course, not to get too political on a Ukrainian of all people going to Russia. Never mind just anyone going to Russia, a Ukrainian going into that lion's den and just producing an absolute masterclass like that. It's one of my favourite performances, I think, of any fighter over the last few years. Just as I say, how kind of fight it was seen as being a fight of the year contender. They were calling it beforehand, the 50-50, and yeah, he spun him on his head. It was absolutely incredible to watch. It really was. And I think what Gassiev's career has gone like since then has kind of maybe meant that this win hasn't got the credit it deserved. Like, people forget what a monster Gassiev was before at cruiserweight, before he moved to heavyweight. He was just absolute animal. So yeah, I think that's definitely up there in the top three wins of his career. Elliot, before we move on to my own pick, just your thoughts on that, having Gassiev in there.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm responding about eloquent breakdown. Yourself also now making those points there about maybe that victory not necessarily having the respect it deserves, actually due to how Gassev's been at heavyweight. But if you take yourself back to that time, like Owen said, location, the threat that Gassev posed, that was a massive, well, definitely one of the best performances in boxing, let alone just cruiserweight. And in Usyk's top three, we're talking about a sort of generational victory. And just to pick up on what Owen said, Owen mentioned the sort of CompuBox stance. I did a bit of research into it actually before we did this video, and just to give you those that are watching some of the figures from that fight, Usyk landed 252 punches out of 939, so 27%. Gassiev, on the other hand, only threw 313, landing 91. So literally, like, if you think of that, 91 punches to 252, it's night and day. So yeah, a dominant performance, very, very good. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing. Definitely in agreement.
So we've got Breedis, we've got Gassiev, and the final one that I'll throw in there, I think it has to be Anthony Joshua. No disrespect to the bomber Tony Bellew, but we'll go with Anthony Joshua. Who fights, of course, with Anthony Joshua. If I had to pick one, I'd probably, weirdly enough, say the second one, purely because, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinion, Anthony Joshua fought better in the rematch than he did in the first fight. To be honest with you, he was more aggressive, more that kind of old school AJ, as opposed to the first fight where he tried to outbox him and be clever. But yeah, the first fight, going to his opponent's backyard again, London. Joshua was the favourite in that fight. There were so many questions about Oleksandr Usyk moving up at his age. How could he handle the strength, the power, the size of AJ? And yeah, he just comfortably outboxed him. They go to Saudi Arabia for the rematch. As I mentioned, AJ performed better. Absolute credit to AJ. But Usyk's clash was proved too kind of dominant. He was too versatile for Joshua. Took big shots, if I remember correctly, though, and showed a good chin, like he did in Gassiev. The Gassiev fight, as one-sided as it was, took shots, took them well, and prevailed on the decision. So yeah, Joshua for me. The rematch in particular, going by Joshua's performance, but as a collective, yeah, I think they have to be in there. Elliot, what's your thoughts on that? Anthony Joshua, and which fight would you pick out of the two if you had to kind of separate them?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we can disrespect Bellew. I think that's perfectly acceptable. But I think he deserves to be in this list. I think AJ's very, very valuable. I think that is definitely rounding off the top three standouts on his record and Usyk's record. And I actually agree with you. I think the first performance, Usyk, there was a bigger golfing class. Like, usually stopped him, didn't he? I think it was in the 11th. Second performance, AJ looks a lot more motivated. He obviously had Garcia in his corner, fought better. To be honest, it was a much better performance from AJ, and Usyk still prevailed. So I would have that victory. Yeah, the second one as actually being a tougher night's work, but a more I suppose overall commendable performance from Usyk. So yeah, I think definitely in there, one of my favourites. And I think again, it was nice to see, because there's also talk. You talk about Gassiev, but there's also talk maybe of a decision going Joshua's way in a close fight against Usyk. So it's actually nice to see, the proper victor actually getting a decision in both of those, with Usyk winning in both. So yeah, definitely bang on, Niall. I'm sure we'll critique. We'll put them in order shortly.
And on your thoughts on Joshua before we get on to ranking the three names.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you both said, and I don't think it's disrespectful to Tony Bellew to not include him. Levels were shown. I predicted that, and to be honest, I think half the country predicted that levels would be shown that night, and oh boy, were they shown. Yeah, I think in terms of AJ, as better of a performance it was from AJ in the second fight. I think Usyk didn't step on the gas as much. But that's credit to AJ for the way AJ fought. He didn't really allow him to do so. But in the first fight, I just thought Usyk showed AJ, if you want to try and box, this is how you box. I think, I remember correctly, in the first fight, AJ, I think it might have been round 10 where AJ caught him a couple of times. And then it was round 11 where Usyk sort of come out and just gave him that's not happening, not tonight. Almost stopped him. And at times seemed like he held off. Maybe he just didn't want to push it too much, knowing the power. If AJ did catch him clean, he could knock him out. But yeah, I think for me, it has to be number one. It was more, as Elliot agreed, more comprehensive than the second one.
Good stuff, good stuff. So that's our three names. Before we wrap up, I'm going to go to each of you now to kind of rank them in order. This the part I'm really, really interested to see. So we'll go to yourself, Elliot, first for this one. How do you have it? We have the three names. What order are you putting them in?
so tough. It's so tough because they all have different challenges. Like AJ,
Mm.
obviously bigger. It brings his own challenges. Gassiev in Moscow, and then Breedis. Breedis for me is a tough one because Usyk himself obviously a tough fight. And it looks like a very, very close fight. But then I think that's I'm looking at retrospectively and go, oh, that may be easier than Gassiev after the fight, but before the fight, trying to balance it that way as well.
Mm.
I'm actually going to put Breedis at 3. To be honest with you, think it's probably a bit harsh, but there's other reasons. I'm going to have at 2 AJ. I think AJ a bit limited. I'm actually going to have Gassiev as the hardest fight, as his best victory, just because, like Owen articulated, going to Russia have been a major factor of it. Also, the fact that Gassiev at that time and at that weight was an absolute killer. So for me, that outweighs the fact that AJ not necessarily as good a boxer. Breedis, again, highly ranked, but I've just chosen the other guy, put him in 3 just because physical stature not the same as AJ, but I put Gassiev at 1 due to the location and power and the whole context surrounding that fight.
There you go. Breedis 1, AJ 2, or Gassiev 1, AJ 2, Breedis 3. Owen, how'd you have it?
Unfortunately for the viewers, I have to completely agree with Elliot Grigg. I think it's a difficult one because the Breedis win is almost overshadowed by his wins that follow. And it sounds harsh because at the time it was, although the Gassiev was seen as a complete 50-50, I think that was seen as 50-50 because it was a boxer against an animal, against a monster sort of thing. So I think that does get overlooked. But yeah, I think where you can't put a victory below first, where a 14-stone man throws nearly 1,000 punches in 12 rounds, comfortably wins away in Russia. It's even if you didn't see the fight, based off those stats alone, you'd sort of have a slight initiative as to how that fight went. But I'd look at the stats as well. The most punches he threw was in the 12th round, threw 117 punches against the monster of the division in the 12th round in his backyard. Like that alone is out. And he landed nearly 50, he landed 47 punches out. It's mental. So yeah, I think that one has to be at number 1. Outrageous victory in the manner that he managed to do it.
Good stuff, good stuff. I've got AJ at 3 personally. I thought that was no disrespect to AJ, it's a great win, but I just thought that was the easiest to rank out of 3. And I was really struggling with 1 and 2. Breedis, a tougher fight in the after in hindsight, a way tougher fight than Gassiev, and maybe a better cruiserweight than Gassiev overall. Maybe a better fighter, but I just think that the whole build up to that, on paper, as I mentioned earlier, that fight, absolute 50-50 fight of the year, people were calling it. Gassiev icing everybody, running through everybody, Dorticos in the semi-finals, and the Ukrainian going to Russia to pull off that performance, hardly get touched and leave as the undisputed cruiserweight world champion. It's just incredible. So yeah, that's my list. Gassiev 1, Breedis 2, and AJ 3. So yeah, that's all we have time for on this one. It was a pleasure ranking Oleksandr Usyk's top 3 best victories of his career ahead of May 18th, the undisputed heavyweight title fight against Tyson Fury. Will he get Tyson Fury on there at number 1? If he pulls this off, he surely will be number 1. So yeah, let us know what you think. What are Usyk's best wins? How would you rank the top 3? Do you have somebody else in there entirely? Let us know, and don't forget, as always, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow on social media. Always great content coming up on a regular basis. So lads, pleasure and take care.
Thank you very much as always, guys. Thank you for watching.